So, as you can see, uncertainty is here, impact here. If you are looking at this is actually the alternative scenarios, the high impact and the high uncertainty. High impact and the high uncertainty. See? This is where you will now see an alternative scenario. In fact, you can put it also here. But this is where you're going to now create the scenario. The high impact and the high uncertainty. Okay? Because the impact is very important for the success, for the focal issue to be seen in the next 30 years. And the uncertainty is, it's some sort of the wild card, meaning that how would you react with this high uncertainty, critical uncertainty, that variable? This is now how you will position yourself as scientists. Okay? Position yourself as scientists, technologists, and innovators. How would you see the future 30 years from now with regards to your core groups team? Okay? So you'll be doing this. So i-advance ko na kaunti kayo para mabilis ang situation. Yes, sir?
What's wrong with low uncertainty?
Ayan. Okay. Low uncertainty, high impact. What's wrong with that? Simple. Alam mo na mangyayari. Low uncertainty, meaning that you already predicted that the uncertainty is low, meaning that status quo already. Yes. Yes, you can have one scenario also here. Okay? So, the whole point, this is where the unknown zone is. That's the unknown zone, 30 years from now. The key predictable variables and the critical uncertainties will be, battling it around. How do you move around with that is now the riddle for this exercise. Okay? Okay. Just remember, for this activity, I will be recommending one scenario per core group. But take note, make that scenario more or less, from my point of view, as if that is the grand scenario. 30 years from now, it is the grand scenario you want to see with your core group. Okay? Because we can have other alternative scenarios, but let's have this grand scenario. And then later on, alternative scenarios can be transformed in the following workshop with the different stakeholders. Okay? Because we are pushing the science here. Okay? You are scientists, we are going to push the science here. Okay? Once we create the scenarios here, the grand scenario, we will now push it for the market pool now, we'll pull it. And that's going to be a different activity now for scenario building for the other stakeholders. We will now see an alignment later on. Ma'am Rod, so you will be assigned later on with the stakeholders for these grand scenarios. That will be another exercise. Yes. Yes, sir.
Sir, dito sa stage 3, group into science, technology,
Yes.
and others. Then dito naman sa stage 4, hindi na naka-indicate dito kung still these uncertainties will be grouped into science.
Wala na. Labo-labo na yun, sir. Kasi ganun talaga yun eh. We just put it there. Meaning that, transformation, these are science, technological. But once it enters the scenario field, this is now, they will have their life of their own.
So, hindi na i-consider
Hindi na.
yung steps na yun.
Hindi na, sir. Moving forward na tayo. Okay? Okay, so yun na, okay na. So, any questions sa stage 6? You'll be doing this. Advance ko na kayo sa stage 7. Okay. Para mabilis kagad yung ano. Okay, so ito yung example. Ginawa nila yan sa Romanian. Take note example lang to. This is the Romanian research on biotechnology food chain. Take note, this is just one country. Take note. Take a look at the variables there. Ang dami. Okay? Remember, this is multi-stakeholders na. The stakeholder as of now here are scientists, national scientists, innovators, technologies. Itong scenario na magagawa yan, isasubject pa yan later on for multi-stakeholders. So sinasabi ko lang sa inyo, basically, I'm just telling you the advance, how this scenario will be taken by stakeholders. Okay? So just a sample there. Okay? Okay, stage 7, scenario logic. Yan. Okay, sabihin ko na kaagad. Okay. Okay, let's say, you have done this already, guys. Ladies and gentlemen, nagawa niyo na to. You're now going to stage 7. Okay. What is the typical situation? You have your boards there. Okay. So this is the unknown zone, meaning that this is the questioning. This is the portion in which you are questioning, can a scenario exist with these critical uncertainties and key predictable variables? Let's now go to stage 7. This is considered to be the highly creative stage. So na yun. It assists in determining the number and characteristics of developed scenario. But take note, you identify key areas along which scenarios could differ. In fact, if you're doing scenario building, 1 or 2 or 3 scenarios. But for this exercise, as a science push scenario building exercise, gagawa lang muna tayo ng isang scenario, one grand scenario, okay? You emphasize on issues basic, take note to the success of the local decision. As scientists, what do you think will be a successful combination for the local decision from your point of view? A scientist. I am a scientist. I'm in the Blue Economy Group. I will create a scenario. As a scientist, how will I make those variables there interact together for the other stakeholders to appreciate it? This is actually the one being tossed at you right now. Because you are scientists. You see a different situation from the rest of the world. You're now trying to push the science here. Okay? And so, the whole point there is that once these scenarios will be presented to the stakeholders, they will be offered decision makers significant different potential strategies. Okay? Remember what you're doing right now is a start of could be possible potential strategies for collaboration, understanding, policies, laws, etc. I cannot pinpoint right now what will emanate from the blue economy, what will emanate from this group, the science education. The scenario could be 30 years, a policy will be made. A scenario could be more or less, an industry system will be made. Another aspect in the health could be something like, we'll be increasing our health workers in terms of different types of diseases. It depends now, no? But the whole point that you are representing just one stakeholder and you're trying to push it to the next stakeholders to appreciate the scenario that you have looked into. Okay? So, mamaya sir, papakita ko sa inyo. Mag-Facebook na tayo mamaya, papakita ko sa inyo yung transfer. Para makita nila yung, yung situation. Okay? Yes sir.
Are you on? Hello?
Yes.
Okay. So, in moving from the identification of the significant but uncertain variables, will they be able now to go into a scenario matrix?
Yes.
Will they have a scenario matrix?
You will do this.
Okay. So that choosing the most significant but most uncertain, choose two variables.
Yes.
Then you cross-tabulate them so that you have a high-low and low-high of those two variables for each of your dimensions. And so you will have 4 scenarios.
Yes. Actually, you can have 4 here.
Yeah.
Well, in fact, some combination can be combined here. But as of now, for the grand scenario, because there are a lot of uncertainties, you'll be concentrating on one grand scenario somewhere here.
Yeah. Can I just give an example?
Yes.
Okay. For instance, COVID virus.
And go.
Pandemic, no pandemic. Okay? High is pandemic, low is no pandemic. On the other side, you have, will DOH cope or not? High capability, low capability, right? So you have high pandemic, high capability of DOH, a black. But you can have high pandemic, low capability of DOH. What happens? Or you have high capability of DOH, low pandemic, no pandemic. And then you have low of each side. So those are your, then you ask, which is your worst scenario? Pandemic, low capability. What is your best scenario? High capability, no pandemic. Right? What is your preferred scenario? Now, given where you are now. So anyway, but that's the idea.
Yes.
It gives you it gives you this matrix, and then actually meron pang implications siya. Anong implications?
Later on, stage
Ah,
8,
okay,
9, and
so-
10, makikita niyo sa 9
Para
and
lang
10.
ma-visualize natin, meron naman tayong structure dyan.
Yes, okay? So, this is stage 7, gagawin niyan. But allow me to show you this. Yeah, sorry sir.
Meron ba sa intersection?
Pwede sir. Let's say for example, may intersection dito. Let's say,
Sa gitna?
yes, let's say for example, may dito, may tree. You want to build a scenario around there, you can do so. Pwede dito, pero this is more or less the unknown eh. Andito eh.
Can I say that?
Yes, yes.
Okay. The focus is on the uncertainty,
Yes,
diba? But because the constants that are changing are there, you need to, when you do the implications, you have to bring them into the picture. You're not dealing only with the uncertainties, you have to complex them with the known facts. Like you will always be archipelagic, you will always have 100 million people, you cannot change that, we will all be brown, or mostly.
Okay. So, it is actually highly creative. You can put a scenario, but for this group, this is actually the challenge, no? With the uncertainties that, you know, we can yes sir.
I think before we can go to that, patapusin muna natin.
No problem sir. In-advance ko lang kayo to make...
Kasi identifying yung uncertainties na lang, that is challenging.
Yes sir, ganun talaga.
So, wag stage 7 na, masyado malayo na yan.
Hindi na.
That's true. Hindi pa nga na-identify yung mga uncertainties.
Sir, okay lang. So,
Once na ma-identify natin yung uncertainties, mas madaling
yes.
maintindihan.
Okay. So, okay now I'm giving you 20 minutes to do this. I'll be moving around 20 minutes to do this. Okay? No problem, sir. Okay, okay? Sige. Everything is excited. Sabi ko nga sa inyo, itong stage na to, ito yung na-spark na akin.
destructive function of society environment.
So it depends on you now, but our purpose for this activity is just one scenario lang, no? Kasi talagang it would take, almost another hour or two, kailangan natin, we have to finish it. No? For you to produce the first grant or the scenario, recommended scenario for your science push scenarios, no? Okay? So, can I please get PowerPoint, please? Okay.
Economic and financial ano natin, state. Economic yun. Ano yung pangalan niya?
Okay. Okay. So again, if you look at this stage, stage 7, this is now the highly creative stage, no? Take note that you will be doing just one scenario. No? In reality, actually, there could be multiple scenarios that can be produced. But take note that each scenario is actually addressing the focal issue. Each scenario must be different from the other scenarios, but still, the focal issue needs to be addressed. No? So in time span natin is 30 years. Okay? So at the end of the day, the scenario that you'll be creating will offer decision makers significantly different potential strategies. Okay, now let's now go to stage 8. Okay? Okay, this is stage 8. Okay. This is now the development of scenarios. What you have now is actually this. Okay? You'll be picking a cluster of variables that you will now set to become the scenarios. No? So, in this situation, you will identify those variables, and of course, you can identify the drivers. No, what drives these key predictable variables? Okay, what's a driver? What's a driver? Meaning that the one pushing this predictable variable, there's something there. For example, let's say if you have a predictable variable, let's say rise of or more or less increase in automotive consumption, buying. Okay, so what's the driver for that? More roads. See, more roads. Okay, so you identify some drivers in each key predictable variable. Okay, so these drivers are very important for you to develop now the story. So, for example, this one here, technological boom, could have a driver or drivers. This one here, this one here. Of course, the critical uncertainties could have drivers, but these are unknown, no? Meaning that the drivers still cannot be seen, no? At this point in time. Okay, secondly, you examine the factors and trends in stage 2, 3, and 4. Okay, you have done that already. Not only driving factors, but eventually you will be developing strings of causally linked events that might happen. So what are causally linked events? Meaning that if you have this, let's say, drivers here, you're now going to some sort of create a link. Let's say something like this. Let's say the circle is KPVs, right? Okay, this is KPV 1, 2, 3, 4. And then, you come up with an uncertainty here. Let's say 1 or 2 uncertainty. Let's say 1. Uncertainty 1. You are now going to create a story out of this by putting the links. Okay? This is actually a creative stage in which you are now creating some sort of a story. Okay? Out of this critical or KPVs, what's the storyline? What's the scenario 30 years from now? Subjecting it to one critical uncertainty. Okay? This is really creative in the sense that 30 years from now, how do I see these things interplay now? What are the drivers for this to move into this into this? Meaning that the focal issue is now what? It's now trying to be solved. There's a solution for a focal issue. Because you are now looking at the interaction of these key predictable variables with the drivers. Okay? And then, you are also subjecting it to an uncertainty. Okay? So, this, mamaya makikita nyo, okay? Sa standby lang. Okay, this is the exciting part actually. Okay, now, Let's have another postscript here. This is how you're going to write it. Identify events, a series of dated newspaper headlines. Scenarios could be written as newspaper headlines. Let's say 2030, blue economy is the new profession of the Filipino marine worker. Blue economy is now the industry of the Filipino marine worker. Could be something like that. Yeah? 30 years, no? You still don't know if it's going to happen, but the whole point there is that you're starting now to create a scenario 30 years after. Let's say, for example, in this group, environment and climate change. What is a good newspaper headline for this? Let's say, for example, 30 years from now, enjoy the Philippines with volcanoes and tidal waves. See? Disaster tourism. How about that? Is it possible? Volcanic tourism. We don't know. See? It's a crazy idea. It's a crazy idea, but it depends now on how you manipulate the drivers here. Remember, you are not predicting. You are creating the future. 30 years. Yes, you're preparing for the future. Kaya kahapon, yesterday, Sherman told us, imagination is the key here. Imagination. But imagination with predictability. And pitting it with critical uncertainty. Okay, how about the other group there? Food and nutrition. Let's say, for example, isaw as a new staple food. I don't know. as a new meat. I don't know. You know, something like that. It sounds crazy, but are you eating isaw right now?
Harvesting
So it sounds crazy, but is it plausible 30 years from now? It's just something. It's just a nostalgic way. Okay.
Isaw tablet.
Isaw tablet. Okay. We have something here. Science education. How about science education 30 years from now? Yes, sir. Science education 30 years from now. That's it. Driven by STEM. Okay? Okay? No, STEM education, ma'am. Ganun, you know? Okay, how about energy and water?
Filipino average lifespan 120 years.
Okay, that could be a scenario. Fighting each other for lack of water, but what can you do about that? 30 years. You have seen that. It could be like that. Okay? And how about the group from the health sector, the health core group? What could be a good newspaper headline 30 years from now? Yes.
Filipino lifespan is 120 years.
That's it. Because of universal health care. Tapos. Oh, that's a scenario 30 years from now. Diba? What's a typical lifespan of the Filipino male? No, it's already 55.
Sitting with
Yes.
population of 120-year-olds.
Okay.
Sa Japan, hindi ganun, sir.
Okay, so this is what I like. Ideas are now sparking because I tell you this is emanating from the creative stage. Next one. Okay. So the newspaper headline could be weaved and formed into a narrative. You have to form a story based on this. Based on the key predictable variables and the uncertainties. It's a creative process, okay? So the question is, now, you ask is, how would the world get from here to here? No, it's not here. Here to there. Okay. Okay, I put it actually like that, here to here. No, here to there. 2020, here, there, 2030. How would you go? How would you, transport yourself and create that's the future? Okay? Next one. Take note about this. What events might be necessary to make endpoints of the scenario plausible? Endpoints. What do you mean by endpoints? Is there a policy need to be rehashed? Is there a structure that needs to be created? Is there a new profession that needs to be more established in this country? So you think about those situations, no? The possibilities are actually, from your point of view, making that scenario to be plausible in the future. Okay? And then, do not include considerations for your organization. So for NAS, you don't think about NAS, you think of the Philippines with regards to blue economy. And that's actually outside looking. Okay? So this is now stage 8. I'm going to show you a sample of a developed scenario. Can I have them? This is done by my student in one of our 281 class. This is composed of about 10 students. They made an infographic about the IoT and transport system. Okay, this was created by Roxanne Lamson. She's now taking her second master's at Australia, Melbourne. Okay, for technology. Okay, so let's take a look at that situation. I heard one semester, no? So one semester, sir, tama yun. One semester nagawa ka, no? But of course, later on, yung infographic nyo lalabas yan, it will be transformed. So NAS is actually going to be part of that transformation, okay? Pwede ba?
Parang masimple yung sa webinar, di ba? 4 steps lang yung binigay ko sa ganda ng presentation. Parang mas madaling maintindihan. Parang yung coverage, parang
physical and emotional toll the riding public experiences every day in their The Philippines loses at least 2.4 billion pesos a day to traffic. Not to mention the physical and emotional toll the riding public experiences every day in their commute. 3 train lines prone to frequent breakdowns, run-down buses, and unsafe jeepneys. These are the only affordable means to transport 15 million passengers a day in Metro Manila. Commuters packed like sardines in almost unbearable conditions, slogging through 2-hour trips just to get from point to point. But what if we don't have to endure this every day? And what if an affordable, reliable, and most importantly, safe public transport is possible? Imagine walking to your nearest bus stop and getting there at just the right time when the bus arrives. Imagine booking your seat and paying your fare with just a few taps from your smartphone. Imagine faster trips without long stops in terminals to wait for passengers. Imagine a sense of safety, knowing every passenger is registered and identified. All this is made possible with technology. Internet of Things or IoT connects things to each other. Things communicate with each other through sensors installed that can send and receive data. IoT can bring us an intelligent, efficient, and demand-based mass transportation program. The bus rapid transport is a form of mass transportation system that uses dedicated lanes, bus stops, and terminals to transport people at a faster rate. But why stop there when you can integrate the Internet of Things with the BRT to have an intelligent bus rapid transport system? The iBRT knows when you need it, where you need it, and how to get you where you need to be in the least amount of time. iBRT does this by communicating with other buses, smartphones, stoplights and other traffic devices, and bus stops and terminals. It can map out the most efficient routes real time by sending, receiving, and analyzing data from its system. iBRT does not only transport people, it also actively helps ease traffic congestion in the metro, thanks to its intelligent system. But what about fuel? iBRT is completely electric powered and environment friendly. And in the future, where fossil fuels are scarce, iBRT can use either renewables or even nuclear energy. In a future where the internet can not only connect all of us, but all of us to everything, there is no reason that the internet cannot be used to solve our most pressing problems. This is the iBRT, and this is the future.
Nakakaingit, no? No, see? This is just the start. That's 6 months of work. Okay, yung transformation doon from the start, from stage 1 to stage 8, actually. So, yun ang point doon. That was done actually around 5 years ago. So, yun ang point, no? And this is what I want to share you about scenario building. What you're doing, yes.
Submitted to the government or whatever.
No, they're all part of that. Yes, I tell you, we have so much. We have done almost around 50 to 60 group projects. Yes, with regards to your topics, and we are opening up Technology Management Center for such reports. Okay, so if you want to have access to those reports, we will be yes. Okay, and then we have the access to some of the scenario building exercises with different students. Almost 100, some of them are still confidential as of now. We have different classification, but that's open for your team to get into, looking at these paradigms, etc. Who knows? Maybe some of the situations in your core group has actually been written already. Okay, yes, and that's the whole point. Some of them can be now rehashed in a sense that you can reiterate and make your scenario building much more at the macro level for the Philippine government on science push for science technology innovation. Okay? Nakakainggit? That's true. But take note, ang inggit is actually a driver. Okay? Jealousy, envy is actually a driver for us Filipinos. Because we have so many minds, we have so many talents, why can't we do it? It starts with planning and basically imagination, and the key there is scenario building. Scenario building is actually the vehicle, because this will just be your first paper this will be combined with the other stakeholders. Imagine the power of other stakeholders combining together their minds for these scenarios to become plausible and more or less plausible, and there could be some ideas that can be integrated into each scenarios. So is there a hope for the Philippines? We are given 30 years. This is the first national foresight for long period of time, and we are given 30 years to change basically, and to chart our future, and to create and prepare for that kind of future. My students have done it in a way that, these are just papers, but can the Philippines do it with government support, funding, and the resources? I think we can. And this is just a start. And the whole point there is that this is now where you're heading. The creative stage now. Okay? Don't think of the infographic yet. Just think of writing a narrative. A narrative that you see 30 years. What scenario can be plausible with what you have right now? Okay? So that is a challenge. You can do that over lunch. Okay? So you can think and then write some postscripts. And later on, because of certain confidentiality, this will not be presented. I will just be going around, okay, for the stage 9 and 10. Okay? You know why? Because stage 9 and 10 is confidential. We cannot show it. Okay? We cannot show it because stage 9 is actually vulnerability and strategies. Okay? We cannot show that. No? This is confidential. This is of national concern muna. Okay? Later on, pag ma-develop din sila, yes, that will be transformed into much more public document. Okay? So yon. And then of course, I will go around so that I can discuss 9 and 10 stages with you. And then of course, Doy in the afternoon will be the one transforming those scenarios into that logical framework. How do we go about it? So the exercise with Doy is actually basically transforming into a logical way. Is there logic behind the scenario that you have created? Okay? So if you look at this, stage 8 is actually like that. Okay? Okay. You are linking now the KPBs and the uncertainties. This is just a guide how you think. Okay? And this guide will help you basically in terms of creating the scenario. What are the drivers? What are the variables that push one another? Eventually leading to the uncertainties. What? Clarity that this uncertainty could actually be what? Could be solved in 30 years time, because you can actually turn a little bit of the strategy, no, in a sense, no, for that scenario. Okay, yes sir. Yeah, causal. Sorry about that. That's causal links, no. Sorry about that. This is causal links. Causal links is in driver. Okay. Feedback links will be later on stage 9 and 10. That we will be looking at that. Yes, the links. We will be understanding the links, the 9 and 10. Okay? So yon. Do you want me to consider stage 9 and 10 na? I will discuss stage 9 and 10. Para sa lunch, tuloy-tuloy na kayo. Sige, tuloy na. Hindi. Para para mamaya 9 and 10, alam niyo na yun, ano? Kasi yung 10 will be ano. Okay. I think stage 8, the narrative is just short. 200 to 300 words scenario description. It could be a newspaper headline. It could be a storyline. It could be a plot. It depends on you now. Okay, and then develop the appropriate catchy title. We have just tossed around some title. Depends on you now to come up with a catchy title. An example is like this. So I got this from APEC. No? This is way during the time that APEC was actually moving into the scenario frontier. Let's have this one. Green Revolution, Eco-Technology Revolution, Information and Communication Revolution. Is this happening now? This was actually 20 years ago or 15 years ago. Let's take a look at the narrative. The information and communication revolution in biotechnology. Is this happening now? Take a look at this. What country is doing that now? That's 15 years ago, 15 to 20 years ago. New communication and computing technologies have significant implication for food production. Go to Europe, go to Japan, go to China, you're using it. There you go. Access to the internet is already matured. You have Lazada, you have Alibaba. Food is actually moving around the world because information communication revolution. Computing makes it possible to process large databases for libraries, remote sensing, GIS, gene banks. How about that? And yes, this is happening right now. This was done 15 years ago. This is now what's happening. See? The scenario is actually going to be prepared. What you're doing right now is not a piece of white paper. It is going to be a colorful paper as we progress in transforming that paper into a plausible scenario 30 years from now. Okay? This paper was done 15 to 20 years ago, and that's it. We are experiencing this now. Okay? So that's stage 8. Someone told me, what was the feedback? How can we get feedback? We're now moving to stage 9. What is stage 9? This is the assessment of scenario coherence. I will be going down, I'll be discussing with you. This is the questions that you will be asking yourself. Critical examination of the scenario logic. Is there a logic in the scenario that you have written? Okay, remember that you have created a causal links. Is there logic behind that? Yes. There's no logic. Can we put another line for that? Well, it depends on you now. So, in this situation, you must identify key events or turning points. 30 years after. Within 30 years, what are key events and turning points? Will there be a low pass? That's a turning point. Will there be a significant increase in the employment of teachers? Okay, anything that you will say 5 years, 10 years time, as we go to the 30 years, there are turning points that will be telling the world that this scenario is happening. These are the milestones. Okay, because that is actually the parameters, something that can be measured, that can be looked into the scenario once you assess it. Okay, so this is actually the assessment. Moreover, here we go, this is very important. The linkages with the greatest weakness. Assess the scenario. Let's say this one is weak with this one. You can still rewrite the scenario. For example, is there a weak link between the teachers and DepEd? Is there a weak link between the scientists and the political system? Is there a weak link between our natural resources and the manufacturing sector? Okay, you are actually now dissecting the whole causality of the plausibility of the scenario. And this is one thing that you'll be doing because the scenario will be reiterated until you see the whole logical situation. Okay? Next one. Check against full set of critical variables to ensure coverage and consistency. Meaning that, have you covered the whole variables for this? Okay? So what you will be writing will be continuously examine until it's going to be something that will be logical, something that will be plausible, something that can be the ordinary mind or the ordinary forecaster or stakeholder can understand. Okay? And of course here, per scenario, each variable should have a clear and logical outcome, which is different from that in the other scenarios. We are just creating one scenario. Later on, when the stakeholders comes in and present that, they can create another scenario from their point of view. And this is where you see they can link the scenarios with the science and technology push that you have just made as a scenario. Okay? Any questions for stage 9? And before 2 o'clock, you will be finished with stage 10. This is, lastly, a recommendation lang. Okay? Return to the focal issue. What's the focal issue? Is the scenario able to solve or give clarity to the focal issue? What, and you ask this question, what emerges as consequence under each scenario? What do you mean by consequence? Meaning, is the consequence good? Is the consequence bad? Will there be someone displaced? Will there be benefits? Will there be disbenefits? See, again, you are now dissecting the scenario, okay? It is not just there for everyone. Okay, that's it, that's there. No, you are still reiterating the scenario, and eventually, this is very important. What vulnerabilities have been revealed? What do you mean by vulnerability? Okay, anything in your scenario that can be contested by a stakeholder. It could be Congress, it could be Senate, it could be the manufacturing sector, it could be the agricultural sector. Okay? See, the whole point of the scenario is actually now working. It is a working paper to develop further the scenario. Okay? So what you'll be writing here will be still subjected to a lot of vulnerability assessment and analysis. Okay? Until, getting the future imprecisely right rather than getting the future precisely wrong. Okay, that is the tenet here, that is the philosophy about scenario building. And further, this is actually a little bit robust. You'll be asking the question, what kind of strategies might be robust under all scenarios? After finishing this, you might be recommending a strategy. Okay? But take note, another scenario will be from the stakeholders to combine. They can have their own strategy. But for this scenario, you have to recommend a strategy, a robust scenario. What do you mean by robust scenario? Something which is macro level or meso level. A scenario, for example, let's say, in the STEM or education. What's a robust scenario? What's a robust strategy? Let's say, for example, science, yeah.
Did you not just end up with a motherhood statement there?
No. It is just a robust strategy.
A robust, a motherhood statement is wrong.
Yeah, it is not a motherhood statement, meaning that you can write 1, 2, or 3 robust strategies. Meaning that, you can still change it, but the whole point there is that this is actually leading you, for example, to increase in research and development, increase in... That is not motherhood, so it is still robust. So it depends now on the details. Okay. Sorry about that. Okay. So everything...
That's why I don't know what you mean by robust.
Okay, well, we can change the... Yeah, we can change robust to recommendatory or more or less... we can have another word instead of robust. Yes, sir, can we contest on that? Okay, so we can still change robust. It could be recommendatory or more or less a clear strategy or semi-clear strategy. Okay? And this is actually what you will be doing. This is where it can be heading. Okay? It is just one scenario, but remember, some scenarios could be linked here actually. Okay? Any questions? Yes, ma'am.
Actually, this institution, DOST, cannot go into the micro planning
Yes.
or micro strategic planning. It should be the different agencies or the different groups that should be into the micro scenarios.
Yes.
We should be only up to the macro and even maybe in some areas meso.
Yes, Meso.
Because we should involve the different agencies in the micro foresight or whatever planning that they should be. They should be involved.
Yes,
in
ma'am.
fact, they're doing some of them 5 to 10 years or so.
Okay.
Ours should be macro.
Macro level.
Should be 30 years from now.
Yes.
And considering scenarios that would cover the micro
Yes. And the meso
strategies
level.
and the meso.
Yes.
in fact.
And that's why if you look at this phrase here,
So that would be in terms of time and space, geographical.
yes, yes. For example, in response to Dr. Padolina's mention about robust being motherhood, this is actually the third bullet there. What kind of strategies might be robust under all scenarios? Take out the word there, might. So it's not really aplastado. It's not really cemented. Might lang. No.
The other thing that I would like to be clarified at this
Yes, ma'am.
point, I don't think we should be reporting what we have put together
Yes,
now,
actually, yeah.
because we still have to review, we
Yes,
still have
yes.
to do something about it. You'll be helping us in whatever
Yes,
we
yes,
should
ma'am.
be writing, and then we will be involving the other stakeholders, because we're still mapping who among the stakeholders should be sampled in terms of these other activities that we need to do.
Yes,
So I think what we can do now is
Stage
sum up
eight
what
naman.
we
Stage
stage 8 or
eight.
9
Yes,
as far as we can go, and then we proceed with the other technique or methods that
That can be joined together.
yeah, that can be used in case they can be useful. Dr. Romero would be helping us in this regard. Actually, we've been doing the logical framework, but let us link the logical framework with the scenario building
Yes,
that we are doing.
what I'm saying is that for part of that situation for writing the final paper, stage 9 and 10 might be part of that final analysis
Yeah.
for the scenarios created. Sir, I acknowledge you with regards to robust being motherhood, but the keyword there is might will just be a little bit on that side. Thank you very much for that comment, Dr. Padolina. Okay? Any questions, guys? Lunch is very important to us. While you are taking lunch, creative ideas will be coming out. So make that lunch with the memorable lunch. Okay? Okay, so I think that's it. I've shown you up to stage 8. Outputs will be delivered as we serve lunch. Okay? Thank you very much. Thank you.